So what I'll do is I'll give you a general overview of studying modern languages here at Durham and of the degree programs. Some of it will be quite nitty-gritty information. There's always information online and I can point you to that. We'll then be hearing from our student ambassador Lily, and then Lily and I will take any questions you have to ask. Questions from anyone in the room. Universities are about the students, so I particularly welcome questions from the potential students, but of course parents and guardians are more than welcome to ask. Then they tend to embarrass their children by asking questions, but please ask as you wish. So why study languages? So some of you might be deciding what subject to do. You might be thinking of maybe doing history or English or philosophy. Well, what I would say to you is that everything that those subjects do, we do, and we do them better because we also do them in the modern languages. We're a very capacious subject. You study everything from philosophy and art and cinema to literature to rap music, visual arts, the whole lot. So we can offer you a very broad range of subjects. And of course, you study a language itself. And the degree in languages gives you access to all sorts of people, ideas and experiences across the globe. You'll be speaking with people in their language. You'll get access to them in ways that speaking just English doesn't get you there. So you'll become a better thinker and a better communicator with a degree in languages. It's not just kind of the intellectual aspect that is interesting about languages, it's the career prospects. You'll have a competitive edge over your peers if you have another language. If you're able to speak something other than English, you can be speaking to people across the globe in their language and communicating with them. Don't just take my word for the financial and professional benefits of studying a language. Nick Gibb, who is the Secretary of State for Schools, wrote last year that studying a foreign language can be very rewarding. Come in. You hear from modern languages? Well, they can provide an insight into other cultures and open the door to travel and enhance future employment opportunities. And it's not just the Secretary of State for Schools who says this. A couple of months ago in the FT, there was a rather desperate title, "Where are all the jobs?" And it was a guide for what students might want to take up at university. Now, this lady, Jessica Hamilton, is a recruiter and a co-founder of a career consultancy. She says what she really looks for in potential employees is that you need to show interest or an aptitude, an openness. And she recommends that languages are a very good way to demonstrate that openness and that interest. And she recommends learning languages such as Mandarin, Chinese, Arabic, French and Spanish, and all of those we teach here at Durham. So that's why I think that's kind of my pitch for languages in and of themselves, but why Durham? Well, I would say that Durham is the ideal place to study languages. We have expertise in 8 languages, which we'll come to in a moment. Durham as a whole scores very highly in league tables. So for instance, in the Sunday Times Good University Guide, we're number 6th. That's the most prestigious guide, and in that guide, languages themselves are very, very high up. Anyone thinking of doing German? We've got a few. Italian? No Italian? It's a great language to study. Russian? Wonderful. Arabic? Okay, wonderful. French? Please say yes. Good. Hispanic studies? Good. And anyone doing Chinese, Japanese? Okay, we can skip that bit when it comes to it. So, you'll be getting very, very high-level tuition in these languages. So here in the School of Modern Languages and Cultures, or what we call MLAC, you can take a variety of degree programs. The largest is the BA in Modern Languages and Cultures. We can skip the BA in Chinese and Japanese Studies. Welcome, you have Modern Languages. Modern Languages, welcome, come in. We also host the BA in Visual Arts and Film. Now that's a separate program, and my colleague Simon's been talking about that this morning. Was anyone interested in doing that? If so, did you attend that session? Okay. We also host Modern Languages and History. Anyone thinking of doing that one? Okay, great, we can talk about that. And then the more bespoke degree programs, Liberal Arts. Anyone doing that one? Great. And combined honours in social sciences. Okay, terrific. So I'll try and talk about all those over the next 20 minutes, but this talk will pertain to anyone wishing to study languages here. So let's be very clear about what underpins everything we do here in MLAC, and that's linguistic excellence. We will offer you high-level language teaching in Arabic, Chinese, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Spanish, and Russian. Welcome. Now that's rare in a British university to have that breadth of languages. So whatever language you wish to study with us, you'll be part of a bigger community, and that's something I really want to stress. This is it has great heft and breadth, our department. So we can offer you, to be a community of linguists, which I think is very important and very sustaining. So the key principle is thinking very carefully about language and thinking very carefully with language. As I said, we have 8 languages we can offer you. It's a very varied curriculum. It's a very broad curriculum. We have specialist staff across those languages, and we will enable you to emerge from Durham with, if you put the work in, a top-class degree as a linguist, and the ability to express yourself in at least one other modern language. And that, in and of itself, is a major achievement which should be a source of great pride to you. But we're also keen to promote the idea that we don't just teach language, we teach culture. And we will offer you a range of modules every year of every one of your 3 years here, for you to explore the languages of the people, the cultures of the languages of the people that speak. We will offer you culture modules for all of those languages. We're keen to develop intercultural competence. Again, a real sense of how those cultures operate. But intercultural competence is not some airy-fairy ivory tower idea. If you look at what the China-British Business Council said a couple of years ago, UK businesses can face challenges because of a lack of intercultural understanding and knowledge of language. So second, they say language matters, but first and foremost, it's about intercultural understanding. How do people in that language think? What are their assumptions? How do they behave? And with a wide range of cultural modules, we hope to get you thinking about those cultural practices. So I think the question I would really ask you is, who do you want to be talking to? What do you want to be talking about? And a degree in languages gets you to speak to the most interesting people in their language globally. So we really want to prepare you to be global citizens. So we offer a very wide range of cultural modules, whether that be film and visual culture, cultural history, politics, thought, translation and literature. Sometimes students get a bit anxious about the term literature. They think it's old, fusty books. I would say that literature encompasses everything from rap music and memoirs and journalism and novels and plays. And these are just ways that people have tried to make sense of their place on Earth and their relations to other people. So if you want to understand how gender or power or sexuality or faith work, how we understand our connections amongst us, literature is a great way to access those ideas. I can help you in the course of this session navigate our website to look at the kind of modules that you could be studying from year to year. Essentially, click on that link, and then top right of the screen is other modules. Okay, so I want now to think, in sense of the cultural modules, thinking about keeping your eyes and ears open to new experiences. Durham offers you, we're very rare in this country about teaching material from, let's say, the Middle Ages until now. So people will be teaching works written in 1100, and some will be teaching films made last year. And we will give you access to that incredible geographical and chronological range. So we're really interested in students who want to keep their eyes and ears open to unknown, odd material. One of the things we've been teaching this year is a medieval French romance about a cross-dressing knight. And actually what we've seen is that strange material is students really latch onto that, because current discussions about trans-identity, for instance, we can see in medieval epics. or let's say ideas of Islam, Christianity, and medieval epics, and how that then maps onto contemporary French culture in the banlieue. We're very interested in making those great kind of connections across time and place. It's a flexible course. We will be there to help you navigate that course, help you make your module choices. So if you're feeling a bit lost, you get advice about the modules to choose. And some students know from day one that they want to do, let's say, Spanish film. That's great. But we can also help you navigate that course. We are very much a research-led institution, so you will be taught by internationally recognised experts in their field. Those are just some of the books that our colleagues have produced over the last couple of years. Rosie's book on food culture in Barcelona, then Marie Claire's book on a woman who died a few years ago, Anna Espada, filmmaker and visual artist. William's book on modernism in China. Yari's book on colonial encounters in sort of 17th, 18th century Latin America. Amelina's book on women's writing in French, whether that be in France or the Pacific Ocean. Fusako's book on contemporary Japanese thought, and Andy's book on 20th century Russian culture. We're also publishing articles and translations and scholarly editions. We have people publishing novels. We advise on art exhibitions. We advise on film festivals and so on. So you'll be working with people at the top of their field. But research-led teaching is definitely not just about us, it's about you. Research-led teaching is really about what you do as students. It's about developing in you the spirit of independent inquiry. It's the ability to ask interesting and valuable and challenging questions, and the skills to come up with persuasive answers to the questions that you want to ask. In this, I'm guided by the American writer James Baldwin, who wrote in '63, "The purpose of education finally is to create in a person the ability to look at the world for himself, to make his own decisions, to say to himself, this is black or this is white, to decide for himself whether there is a God in heaven or not. To ask questions of the universe and then to learn to live with those questions is the way he achieves his own identity. This is the only hope society has, it's the only way society is changed." So I really want you to take from this talk today that we do not want anyone to toe the line. This is a degree when you develop your ideas and your solutions to the problems you identify. The ability to ask the big, difficult questions, and as such, you become an engaged global citizen. I really see it as a real link between kind of cultural investigation and being an informed global citizen. So, with a degree in modern languages at Durham, you will gain important skills that you can take forward into the workplace. You develop skills in research and writing and time management. You work with complex materials. You articulate your own sophisticated argument. And you get a language. So again, if you're thinking of doing history or English, everything they do, we do, and we do it better because you get a second language. Having a think about what the program looks like from year to year, and this will pertain to whatever module or whatever subject you're thinking of doing. Every year you have core language modules taught usually by native speakers, and those will be taught in the target language. You also get a range of cultural, or what we call optional cultural modules. You'll begin in your first year to be developing really important skills that you'll need for the rest of your time here. So, skills in close reading, historical contextualization, theoretical and conceptual thinking. We know that many of you will have never written a substantial essay before, and we will train you in those essay writing techniques. So again, it's developing your voice and the ability to express your voice. Who was thinking of doing Russian? Is there anyone? Okay. So we're very keen not to just teach dead white men, pale, male and stale. So here's Anna Akhmatova, the great Russian poet of the 20th century. And so the way you study literature at school will be very, very different to the way we teach it here. So one of the things my colleague is interested in when she teaches us Akhmatova is her concept as her public persona. So there's Akhmatova, who is very keen to present a particular persona to the world. And apparently she told this photographer exactly how she wished to be photographed. And she wanted to be photographed with that incredible nose. Now, who normally gets photographed in that position? Yeah, the Queen. Yeah, presidents, emperors. And so by giving the profile, she says, I am the Queen of Russian poetry. And that kind of great statement. So we'll be looking at ways she uses institutions, the way she uses poetry, the way she uses photography, and her poetry itself, to display herself as this great icon. And there you see exactly the same kind of picture. Any idea who that is?
Dante.
Yeah, that's Dante, the great Italian poet. And she's kind of going, I mean, her nose is also better than, oh, actually no. Hard to tell. Anyway, so we will be, that first year, there are the modules from each of the 8 languages. And often our modules in the first year are kind of comprehensive survey pieces, where you encounter material from across time and, across time. So these are introductory sessions. You may never have studied film before. You'll get a slight training in film. You'll get exposure to medieval stuff, Renaissance stuff, modern stuff, contemporary rap music, all the way across. So at the end of the first year, you're in a much better position to choose the kind of subjects you want to pursue that second year. So after your first year, really an introductory courses where your grades do not matter, so you can take risks. You come into the second year, continue with the language classes, continue with the cultural modules. These are becoming a little more specialised, and again, those skills of developing your voice, developing your interests. That is Mati Diop, the Franco-Senegalese filmmaker, won a prize at Cannes a few years ago. So, as I said, it's a breadth of subjects. It's not just kind of the canon, it's contemporary writers and artists we wish you to engage with too. After the second year, most everyone spends their third year abroad, and we're very happy to answer as many questions as we can about this. And you have 3 options really. The first option is teaching as a language assistant and that's available to people studying French, German, Italian, or Spanish. That's what I did many years ago. Another option is to study abroad at university, and we have exchanges with European partners and further afield. And I can try and answer questions on those contacts if you wish. And the third option is to get a work placement. Now, if you're doing 2 languages, you might do some of your year as a language assistant in Italy, and then you might do some of your year, let's say, working in Latin America. And, we have a dedicated year abroad office. Each language has a dedicated year abroad officer to help you make those decisions. We're not a job agency, but we can begin to help you find a work placement abroad. Some students come up with their own solutions, their own work placements. And we have only 3 criteria for that. Is one, that we know that you're speaking the language as much as possible. The second, that you're developing your intercultural competence. And third, that you're safe. So every student who goes on their year abroad will be filling out a risk assessment form, so we know that you're safe. So we're not going to let you work in a bar in Marseille for a year. That's not really going to develop your language. But there might be other things available to you. Then you return in your final year, again language classes, then quite specialised cultural modules, and at this point a long way off for all of you would be your dissertation, and I'd write 8,000 words or 12,000 words, and this is really the capstone of your achievement here at Durham. So all your skills, time management, analysis, theoretical thinking, all comes into this kind of final project. And I have to say, the work that I read by the students is absolutely terrific. Here are just some of the subjects that our students have been writing on recently. The first one was one of my students who was looking at Gen Z language use in Morocco. So she was looking at how young Moroccans use Arabic, French, English, and Amazigh, I think the word is, or what used to be known as Berber. We're looking at students writing on Sudanese women and exile, Spanish football. It's another one I did, Marie Antoinette and erotica. So a very broad range, and you'll be working with someone, a supervisor, to help you produce that piece of work. Everyone has an academic advisor, as I said, who will help you navigate your way through Durham. Some students need more support, others need less. But you're certainly welcome to talk to us and help forge your pathway. And this is just what one of the pathways might look like in French, for example. You start with a general course, Invention of France, which is sort of about politics and philosophy. Then some might say, oh, I was interested in Francophone, or writings in French but outside of France. So working the second year in the Francophone Imaginary. Year abroad, when you also have to write a research project in the language itself. And then you come back in your final year, and you might want to do the course on French subcultures, which looks a lot at, let's say, culture of the banlieue, rap music. And someone last year did a dissertation, the black body and dance. So you can see how they started off and have chosen a path that really interests them. A similar one for Hispanic studies. General introduction to Hispanic, and this person thinks, oh, I never knew I was interested in the 17th century. Does that in the second year, goes down the year abroad, comes back, and then writes a dissertation on a very controversial figure who sort of translated for the Spanish conquistadors, but was also an indigenous woman. So looking at that figure about what power and gender at that particular moment of historical encounter. Okay, there are all sorts of, so not only the formal language teaching, but there are informal opportunities to speak language. There are language cafes. There's a buddy scheme where you're matched up with, you can find a visiting international student and speak to them, let's say in French one time you meet and English another. There are also student-led conferences, social events and societies. I'm pretty sure that every language has a society. And they've done things like Spanish tapas, Italian cookery, and, God forbid, ballet classes in French. So, you get to practice your languages and engage in the culture. Your career after Durham, I'm very keen to suggest that languages give you access to all sorts of careers. A lot of people think that languages lead you into teaching and translation. Those are both fantastic careers. But there are all sorts of other careers available to you too. Law, business and finance, politics, all sorts of things. And our students go into those. Very high level of sort of rigorous analytical thinking, and sometimes they use that language, sometimes they don't. But languages take you in, they give you that training, they give you that openness of spirit that the woman mentioned a few slides ago. Our employers are very broad, some very substantial names there, include Deloitte, Ernst Young, Goldman's. One of my students is now working, I think she's not quite head of PR for the Natural History Museum in London, and one of my students is the in-house translator for Southampton Football Club, which he managed to get because on his year abroad he worked in Formula One and made some good contacts. So languages take you into all sorts of interesting places. I think we'll now talk about, and of course some of our students go into other education, some will do PhDs, either here or abroad. Two of my students this year have gone on to Sciences Po in Paris, so are doing degrees in French in Paris, looking to kind of develop their careers in Europe. So a lot of you will probably be thinking of doing the BA in Modern Languages and Cultures. It's a 4-year course. You can study 6 languages for that. Arabic, French, German, Italian, Russian, and Spanish. Okay. Who was thinking of doing Arabic? I thought there was one person. Okay. If you do Arabic, in your second year, you can also do a module in Persian. So that allows you to kind of do 3 languages. Who's thinking of doing Spanish? Okay. So you can also do modules in Catalan. So that allows you to do another language. Generally, so students do 1, 2, or 3 languages in their first year, entirely up to you. But from year 2, you have to You can only do maximum of 2 languages. So we ask you to specialise, and that's because of that intercultural competence we're really looking for you to develop. And as I said, you'll be doing language classes, usually in the target language, often taught by native speakers, as well as cultural modules. Happy to answer those questions about that, but this information is also available online. No one was doing Chinese, Japanese. Oh, okay. Have you been to the drop-in session for that?
Not yet, but we're going to ask.
Don will probably be best placed to answer your questions than me. But have you ever done one of those languages before?
I'm doing a little bit of Chinese.
Oh, cool. So, you'll be given very, very high-level language teaching. So it operates 3/3. You do a third of language, a third of cultural modules within Chinese, and then you can do modules elsewhere. It's a very flexible course. Quite a few of you, I think, will think you're doing modern languages and history. So students usually do half their credits in history, half their credits in modern languages. If you plan carefully, you can do more kind of historical modules with us and more sort of international modules in history. I was saying to a group earlier, so my name is Tom and I do 18th century French. There are 2 other Toms in history. One does 18th century French history, one does 17th century French history. So you could kind of basically do a career working with Toms in French history. It would be great. And again, you'd have an academic advisor who'd say, if you're interested in that, that's the module to go for. So you build up your specialism as you go through. And again, you have your year abroad. And, why not, if you're doing that module, study history at the Sorbonne or somewhere else in France? That'd be a terrific project. Then there are much more bespoke degree programs, BA in liberal arts. I need to make sure I get my info on this. Okay, so in liberal arts, you have to start with at least 3 subjects. You can go up to 4. In combined honours, you have to do at least 2 subjects. Now, it depends which one you want to do. If your subject's a bit more arts and humanities, you do liberal arts. If it's more social sciences focused, you do combined honours. So let's say you want to do archaeology, anthropology in Spanish, that would be combined honours. Okay. So a lot of that nitty-gritty information is available online, and I can help you with that. I think people tend to glaze over when they see screens like that. I want to draw your attention to the Helen Sharp Scholarship. So our alumna, Helen Sharp, has given us a fantastically generous gift. So there's one student every year who is awarded £4,000 each and every year they're here. To be eligible, you must be in need of financial assistance at the time of their application, and you have to have been educated at a state-maintained school. The deadline, the next round for that is March 2024. So if you want to apply for that, keep your eyes open, and that would be for starting in so October 2024. So maybe if you're thinking deferring or such thing, that's what to apply for. But keep your eyes open for that. And now I'm going to pass over to Lily, who's going to talk to us about her experience. I'm going to take notes in case.
Hello everyone, nice to meet you. I'm Lily and I'm a Modern Languages and Culture student in first year, studying Russian. I didn't quite see how many people do you have wanting to study Russian? And Spanish? Cool, a lot of Spanish. I've really enjoyed my time at Durham. I've only been here for a year. And I'll just talk you through my experience and sort of my thought process in choosing the languages and also what I'd like to do in the future. So I won't lie to you, studying Russian ab initio, so that means from scratch, has been a challenge. But this is what I've come to university for, is to push myself and to challenge myself. And I recommend that you do the same if you'd like to try out a new language. There's nothing stopping you from choosing a new language here at Durham. So I did Spanish at A level. So I can continued that on, and I had my mind set on studying Spanish at university from year 12 onwards. So that was, a definite choice for me. And Russian, I only chose Russian the week I arrived here, actually. I wasn't really sure what else I would sort of combine Spanish with within my course. And I was just researching all the languages, and I thought Russian would be great considering the current situation globally. I thought it would become a very useful language. And yeah, for Russian, I have 9 a.m.s every day, quite a rigid structure to my timetable. But I really like that because it forces me to get up and sort of think in Russian and remain engaged throughout all of my lessons. I have quite a lot of contact hours for Russian, so we have a really nice structure to the week. We have a lecture sort of going over what we'll cover during that week, and then grammar classes and tutorials throughout covering specific grammar topics, and then a workshop at the end of the week to recap basically. And then we have fortnightly tests, which a lot of you might not like the idea of, but and when I first found out I'd have that, I didn't like the idea, but I realise now it's helped me stay on track throughout the year. So in the long run, it's worth it. Spanish post A-level has also been amazing. I have 1 grammar class a week and 1 oral class a week, and I think that's just enough. And leaving school, I thought I know everything about Spanish. There's not much more I can learn, so it makes sense to start a new language as well. But grammar is endless. I was so surprised at how advanced you can get with grammar, and your push to constantly improve throughout the year, especially with essay writing in that language as well, and engaging with different questions. And I'll move on to talking about culture now, because that was one thing that attracted me to Durham more than anywhere else, was how unique the Modern Languages and Cultures course is. You don't just study the language, you study the culture. So I'm really interested in politics, history, art, and I've really loved the cultural modules I've done this year. So Spanish, I did one about identity in the Spanish-speaking world, and also one about conflict and violence. So very sort of different themes, but across both we study literature, film, art, so lots of different sources that you can analyse, and then in my essays in English I'll analyse those as well. And then for Russian, I did Russian history and culture. I did history A-level, so that came in handy as well, because I had done a Russian topic within that, so I already knew a bit about the Russian Revolution, which was great. And with regards to the future, I'm really excited about my year abroad. I started thinking about that, and for Russian, obviously can't visit Russia at the minute, so I might go to Estonia, and there's a really nice university there. But I've heard a lot of good things about other universities in the Baltic states, and there's even somewhere in Austria that does Russian. So my options are open, and for Spanish, I'd like to do a work placement, perhaps teaching, or maybe something even more interesting coming out, maybe in Latin America. So lots of decisions to make, and I'm only in first year. I'm not sure what career I'd like out